recording in progress.
Oh, I hope we're not going to have this
Did you
tonight.
have a good holiday?
Somebody got their.
Howard's in the
Did,
building.
how are you?
Oh,
Yeah, absolutely.
somebody's got their.
Yes.
It's not, I think Mike's got his mic on, so
Like Mike?
I'll just remind everybody that when they're not speaking to have it muted so we don't get an echo. Okay, we'll call to order the Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, January 10th, 2023. First item on our agenda tonight is roll call.
Miller? Rosato?
Here.
Beck?
Here.
Connolly?
Here.
Jansen?
Here.
Stolpa?
Here.
Wolf?
Here.
Barron?
Here.
Lehman?
Here.
Ayazi? Malay?
Here.
Ewer?
Here.
Sabrone?
Here.
And Vogelsinger.
Here.
I have 12 out of 14.
Right, thank you. And then up next is item number 2, which is a reminder to please speak directly into the microphone for the broadcast and recording this evening. And then also everybody that's online, make sure that you mute when you're not talking. Thank you. Up next is item 3, which is an approval of the minutes for November 15th, 2022. Does anybody have any comments or corrections on those? If not, can I get a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Solfa, second by Ewer. Roll call, please.
Silva?
Aye.
Wolf?
Aye.
Barron?
Aye.
Lehman?
Aye.
Ayazi absent. Malay?
Aye.
Ewer?
Aye.
Sabrone?
Aye.
Vogelsinger?
Aye.
Miller?
Present.
Rosato?
Aye.
Beck?
Aye.
Connolly?
Aye.
And Jansen.
Aye.
Motion carried 13-0.
Okay. Up next would be item 4, which is items to be removed, added, or changed tonight. Do we have anything? Okay. And then item 5 is matters from the public for items not on the agenda. So if you're here for anything not on the agenda, do we have anybody online?
No.
Okay. Then we'll move right on to item 6, which is resolution 23-008R, authorizing execution of an intergovernmental agreement between the city of Batavia and the county of Kane for access and improvements to Kirk Road and Fabian Parkway, southwest corner. Scott?
Thank you. This is in relation to the property at the southwest corner of Kirk Road and Fabian Parkway, which the City Council approved the preliminary plat on October 17th. And as part of this project, the access to Fabian and Kirk is governed by the King County Division of Transportation. As part of any access to those roads, they are both considered freeways under the county regulations, and therefore county board approval is required for any access to those roads. As a condition of access, the county typically requires the agreement to have an intergovernmental agreement with the municipality for the access points, and that is what is in front of you this evening. The access point is actually, the 2 access points are actually private, but they still require a municipal government to take responsibility for the access and other provisions that are in the intergovernmental agreement. So the agreement itself is attached for your review and approval. It was going to be in front of the county board today. I did not find out if it actually got approved, but it was scheduled for final approval by the county board this morning. The agreement has a 20-year term with a renewal term of 20 years perpetually, unless one of the parties should agree to terminate it. Main provisions in the intergovernmental agreement include a right-in, right-out on Fabian Parkway and a full access point at Kirk Road. The requirement to maintain internal access drives so that there can be traffic between Kirk and Fabian. Dedication of additional right-of-way and easements for Kirk and Fabian, and transportation easements that Kane County requires. Requirement to construct deceleration lanes, otherwise known as right turn lanes, at the intersections into the site. requirement for additional detention to be provided that would allow for that to be accommodated on the site for any 6-lane improvement to Fabian or Kirk Road would be provided on the site. Requirement to install any bike or pedestrian facilities where they are not currently located. The developer would be constructing a sidewalk along Fabian Parkway anyway, and the bike path is already on the Kirk Road side. Would also have a requirement for the city to maintain a landscape median on Kirk and Fabian if additional landscaping is required in the future, not for the existing landscaping that's there. That would just be if we added trees or other landscaping. Traffic signal, lighting, and related improvements would be paid for by the city if warranted, and this will be deferred to the developer by a separate development agreement that will be a part of the final plat of subdivision that will be forthcoming in front of the city council in the next probably month or so. Additionally, the city would pay for energy and maintenance costs of the signals that are installed. That would also be deferred as part of a special service area that would be paid for by the development. And then lastly, the city would agree to provide notice of the county road impact fee for developments that would be affected by this type of access. So we are recommending approval of this, noting that there will be a subsequent agreement with the developer for this property at some point in the near future. If this site does not develop, there is a term in the agreement that allows us to terminate the agreement within 10 years if nothing happens on this site. So there would be an out if that happens, and we would not be obligated to do any of these improvements. So with that, we are recommending approval of the agreement with Kane County in regards to access to Kirk and Fabian at the southwest corner.
Okay, does anybody have any questions on this? I guess the one question I have, Scott, is did the county already look or contact the property owner on the north side or on the east side of Kirk Road about what their plans may be for that property, for that intersection, and that is an acceptable spot so that we end up with one intersection there? Yes.
So when the intersection improvement at Kirk and Fabian was occurring, we did have some conversations with Kane County about moving that access point to where the access point is proposed on this site, so that it can be a unified access on both sides of the roadway.
Okay, because I just want to make sure it's far enough away from the intersection to handle all of what they think they're going to end up doing on, all corners of that.
Right. It does meet their intersection spacing for signalized intersections if that should be required.
Okay.
That's all the grocery store.
Yep, right. Okay, and this is just another one of the steps on the way to get this built. We'll see what happens up there. Okay, if there are no other questions, if everybody's okay with that, then I will make the motion that we recommend to council Resolution 23008R, authorizing execution of an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Batavia and the County of Kane for access and improvements to Kirk Road and Fabian Parkway at the southwest corner.
Second.
Motion by Wolf, second by Ewer. Roll call, please.
Wolf,
Aye.
Barron,
Aye.
Lehman.
Aye.
Agassiz, absent. Malay,
Aye.
Ewer,
Aye.
Saron,
Aye.
Vogelsinger,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Rosado,
Aye.
Beck,
Aye.
Connolly,
Aye.
Hanson,
Aye.
and Solfa.
Aye.
Motion carried 13-0.
All right, thank you. And then up next will be item number 7, which is a discussion on our solid waste collection program.
Thank you, Alderman. The city's existing solid waste collection contract is set to expire in July. And so we're starting we've been working on the process, but we're currently working to develop new contract specs for bidding sometime here in early 2023, so that we can have the new contract in place by the time the existing contract expires. We know that we have had conversations, Scott and I have, with different waste haulers, and we are anticipating that several companies have at least expressed interest. We're hoping, of course, that they will submit bids. But tonight's purpose is to, we've invited, and the BEC, the Environmental Commission, has made of requests to include certain components in our new contract. Carolyn Burnham is here tonight She's going to walk through the presentation, and I outlined kind of the major points in my memo, but I think I'll turn it over to her and let her walk through the presentation first, and then we can talk about the individual items. And these are, again, recommendations to be incorporated in our next waste hauling contract.
Hi, everyone. I'm here also not only representing the BEC, but also elements that were presented from the Climate Action Plan Committee in October. So we put some of our ideas together to come up with what we feel like items that we would like to be added to the RFP for the waste hauler contract that's coming up. So we have 4 items that we would like to add to the RFP. The first one is a year-round food scrap collection. The second one is to start our yard waste collection later in the spring and do it the last 2 weeks of April instead of the last 2 weekends in March. Add a spring cleanup day and request an option for a cart-based pay-as-you-throw system of waste collection that could include a lesser fee for recycling. So I'm going to talk about the year-round food scrap collection first. Just a little backgrounder on this. 5 years ago, we approached the city and asked for what was called at the time the ride-along food scrap collection to be added to our contract, and it was. So for the past 5 years, people have been able to add their food scraps into their yard waste collection basically from March through November. But it's hard to really build a habit for only part of the year. And a lot has happened since then. A lot has come out with climate change, and we've discovered more about what's happening with food scraps in our landfill. This kind of precipitated the need for us to ask this, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So food accounts for 21% of the American waste stream. That's the single largest component of waste in our landfills. 95% of our food waste is put in a landfill when it could be going in other places. Why are we concerned about this? Well, municipal waste landfills they're the 3rd highest source of man-made methane released in the atmosphere in the United States. So that's 15% of methane emissions are from municipal solid waste landfills. So where does the methane come from? Well, the methane comes when organic waste such as food scraps, wood, and paper decompose. Methane itself is over 25 times more powerful than carbon dioxide. And even as methane is collected from landfills, much of it is still released into the atmosphere. And lastly, food properly composted is not a source of methane. So the Rocky Mountain Institute released a study last July, and I wanted to include this graph in here, and it has 5 mitigation strategies for reducing methane from municipal solid waste landfills. We're not going to talk all about them. We're going to talk about number 2. The first one talks about source reduction, and the other ones are related to landfills. But this is a tactic and a strategy that is recommended by governmental agencies, the EPA, and globally. So what happens? So we have, the EPA has a food recovery hierarchy, and mostly what I want you to notice from that is the very, very bottom point, the least amount that's supposed to happen is what goes into landfills. But yet, despite all of that, only 4% of food waste is being composted right now. So we have a lot of work to do. A recent study shows that it's technically feasible to reduce methane emissions from solid waste by 80%. Key findings of that Rocky Mountain Institute study reported that keeping food and other organics out of landfills will help the United States address climate change. As municipal solid waste, landfills emitted 99.4 million metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent of methane in 2019. Inger Anderson, who's the executive director of the United Nations Environmental Program, stated that cutting methane is the strongest lever we have to slow climate change over the next 25 years and complements necessary efforts to reduce carbon dioxide. The benefits to society, economies, and the environment are numerous and far outweigh the cost. We need international cooperation to urgently reduce methane emissions as much as possible this decade. But there's more benefits from compost than methane. If we compost our food scraps, it will sequester carbon, improve soil structure, reduces soil erosion, protects water quality, and improves water retention and flood mitigation. This is actually a picture I took on a field trip because that's what environmental commissioners do. We take field trips to composting facilities and we think that's fun. So this was in Romeoville at the waste management facility in 2018. It's a very large facility. It was a cold October day when I went there, and you can see the steam rolling off of those windrows of compost. They had large-scale equipment that would go through there and turn it and incorporate the oxygen into that makes it decompose quickly and not obviously produce the methane. There are also economic benefits of composting. They can create up to 4 times as many jobs as landfills and can increase tax revenues. Can be a cost savings to farmers if they're using the compost. And important to a lot of communities is that diverting these organic waste from landfill can extend landfill capacity. And that's kind of a big deal, especially around here, because we're driving a long way to landfill a lot of our garbage. Oh, I got a new font on this one. The Illinois community, there's many Illinois communities that are offering a year-round municipal food scrap collection. I have given staff a list of these communities and how each of those programs roughly work. So there's a lot of people, communities in the area that are already offering a program like this. Also including in that is the haulers that they're using to do the collection. Our second item, move yard waste collection to start in April. So why? There's environmental benefits of waiting to clean up our yard. It's estimated that 40% of all insect species are declining globally, and a third of them are endangered. Our food web depends on insects, including pollinators, and we need to take more measures to protect them. So insects overwinter in a variety of different habitat types. Either they're beneath the soil, they're within the vegetation, or they're above the ground on vegetation and other surfaces. Why does that matter? Because cleaning up our yards too early has had a negative impact on insect life, as we are raking away insects that have not yet emerged from the winter. So the graph in this picture shows the average temperatures in our region. So we determined, with recommendations from the Illinois Extension and other groups that say that we recommend that yard cleanup should be held off until the temperatures are consistently over 50 degrees. So for us, moving it back to the last 2 weeks of April might be a good compromise for the start of the yard waste collection. The third item is a community spring cleanup day. This is kind of an amnesty day for garbage. People do their spring cleanup and they put everything to the curb, and other people in the community or other communities might come around and want to reuse some of the things that we put to the curb. And then after that, quickly after that, then the hauler would do a pickup of those items within the guidelines that we establish for things that can be put out. And there are a number of communities that are doing this, including St. Charles, Western Springs, Romeoville, Glen Ellen, and there's others as well. I just wanted to pick a few that were nearby. The last item on our list is a cart-based pay-as-you-throw option. And a pay-as-you-throw, we're already doing it with our sticker system, right? So we're not gonna, if you are just using stickers, you just put a sticker on your garbage, if you wanted to take it out. Well, as we all know, the stickers have been a little bit of a problem in Batavia lately, and there's a lot of advantages to moving to a cart-based pay-as-you-throw option. So how does this work? Well, the garbage cans themselves are fitted with RFID tags. So when they're picked up, they transmit to the trucks, and they record who has thrown their garbage for that day. They're charged each time for their garbage and recyclings are picked up and scanned, so they only are charged for the waste they're used. Recycling carts can be a reduced fee, or they can continue to be free. And why do we say that? It's because we're still struggling with a contamination problem. So I will tell you, I don't know what the magic number is. We want to encourage people to recycle, so we don't want to just put everything in the garbage, but we want them to understand that there is still a price to recycling and we need the right things in there. Anyway, so cart-based systems will reduce the need for stickers, which I think everybody would like to do around here. It's also a lot safer for driver safety. Pay-as-you-throw cart systems and address equity of the cart system, so the people who do not generate a lot of garbage will be charged less. And they're also more efficient. They mean that they collect garbage and recycling, and they can help cut down on vehicle emissions of the trucks going through our communities. There's just a few communities that are doing this right now. Wheaton and Highland Park in our area are doing it, and another larger community doing it is Grand Rapids, Michigan. So that is all I have today. Do you have any questions?
Carolyn, could you explain a little bit more about the contamination issue with the recycling bins?
Well, in the United States, and I can't speak to us specifically, we've had that conversation with a hauler, but our contamination rate is at least 20%, I believe, in the United States, if not higher. And what happens if, China stopped accepting our garbage because they were getting just too much, or our recycling, because they were getting too much garbage in it. And right now, when the haulers, if there's too much, and maybe they can correct me, if there's too much garbage in the recycling, then they have to actually pay to have it landfilled. So it is a big problem. There's a lot of wish cycling. There's a lot of people not paying attention to the rules, and there's a lot of people that maybe are careless. But it's making the recycling efforts really more cost prohibitive to them, and it's not working as well. So it's a crisis in the recycling industry.
Nick?
Can you talk about the food scrap program? How does that work for the user? Like what type of container? How does that work?
There's a lot of different ways to do it. We would hope that we could do it a little bit how we do it now and include it in with the yard waste collection. So they would get a cart and they can put their food scraps in that. Typically, that would go through the regular season. Typically in the winter, they'll usually go to a twice a month collection because your food scraps will stick around and not get kind of gross as fast, right, in the winter. So and I know that's a concern for everybody, right, having that not be problematic. So there's other communities that are a little bit more expensive. They bring a company in, they give everybody 5-gallon buckets, right? But I don't think a lot of people can afford that. So it's really better to be implemented as widely as possible and try to include it with the yard waste pickup as much as we can to spread the cost across everyone and maybe get more people to sign on and participate in it. With the current system, we can't really measure even how successful it is or how many people are doing it. And it'll be a little difficult here, maybe with the people doing it year-round. We know that they're hardcore food scrap people. but it's hard to predict. I just know that, with all the information that we're coming out now, we need to start doing more. And this is one way that we can do it.
I think what we're envisioning is probably two options for, let's just use the toter example. A traditional yard waste toter that could have food scraps tossed into it from April to November. That toter might have a green lid. And you would only pay a monthly rental fee. The hauler would know that they're only picking it up from April to November, so they'll set monthly rental fee accordingly. Then there might be another different toter. If I'm a person who wants to do food scrap year-round, I might get a toter with a brown lid or whatever the heck color you want to put. That brown lid toter, the hauler knows they have to pick up that toter all year round. So they'll have a different monthly rental fee for a brown lid toter than they would for a green lid toter because they know that they have to pick that one up round. That one, same thing. You could throw yard waste in there during the summertime and your food scraps in there, and during the wintertime when you don't have yard waste, you could just throw your food scraps in there. But that sets up two different monthly rental rates then for the people who do want to do the option year-round. It's available to them. You just want a traditional yard waste toter for the growing season, you still have that option.
So is that a separate truck? And it has to.
It is right now.
It knows where the brown toters are.
Well,
toters are.
during the growing season, they'd collect them all because it would either be pure yard waste or yard waste plus food scraps. That's what they do today.
Right.
During the off season, during the non-growing season, hauler would know that they would know which houses rented the brown toters. They'd have a list, and they could go to those houses and pick up those toters. Now, that would go for compost.
Gary, can you make sure to use the mic when you're up there?
Oh, sure.
So we get it on the broadcast?
No,
Thank you.
Gary, do we have any idea of what the cost difference will be from what we're paying now if we go to this newer, more improved system?
Specifically for food scraps?
Well, for the whole program that's just been outlined here, I mean, do we know any approximate numbers of what we would be paying as a community for this?
If we go to a toter-based program, you mean, in general?
Right.
Well, so our last bids back in 2018, if you recall, we talked about a toter-based program. In fact, we even bid out a toter-based option, and council at that time elected to stick with a sticker-based program. If you also recall, at that time, council elected not to go with the low bidder. We ended up going with advanced disposal, which is now waste management. Based on sticker sales data back then, staff had presented to council back then that the cost to our residents over the course of the 5 years, based on volume of stickers sold, was a little bit over $1 million. And so, to answer your question, Mayor, we were already paying more than the low bidder's price back in 2018. So, switching to a card-based program today, we're doing that from a good position, in that we're already paying a premium today. And so, the impact to residents may be minimal. They may even see a cost savings if we go out to bid and have competitive bidding. I can't answer your question, but I'm just saying we're coming from a point of advantageous point because we're already paying a premium today.
I guess the question that comes to my mind, how would we expect the residents to pay this? Would it be a once-a-year fee or over every month, or how would we do this?
Typically, today, the people who rent toters do that. They rent them, and they get charged a monthly rental directly from the hauler.
So what do we do with the folks that say, I'm not renting a toter?
Well, it's up to city council. If you want a toter program, you have to have toters. And one of the things we've talked about is for seniors, you do maybe a half-price toter or something, where certain people would qualify for a reduced cost toter. That's part of the nature of what city council will have to decide, is if you want to implement a toter program.
Can we talk to any of these other cities that were just mentioned and find out what their success has been as far as getting everybody to agree to pay for this, or do they have to chase a bunch of folks down and try to get them to pay?
Well, I'll be honest, Mayor, most communities have already gone to toter programs. We are an outlier with the sticker-based.
I'm not opposing it, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to get a handle on what we're looking at.
And different communities do it different way. Like I live in Oswego, ours is right on our water bill. So our village actually handles the billing administration for all the residents, and it's handled through the village. Like I said, in Batavia, it's traditionally been done directly between the vendor and the resident.
I think it's a good idea. As you know, I've been here a long time, and I will tell you that in the last probably year and a half, and I'm not talking to other mayors in the area, they're saying the same thing. There seems to have suddenly become this, and I don't know if it starts in Washington or whatever, but this widespread expectation that government's going to pay for all kinds of stuff. And you'd be surprised the things that I get. I got an email today from a group that wants the city to pay for printed shirts to support one of the groups in town and wants the city to pay for it. Now, if we do that once, there's going to be a whole line of people wanting to do it. So I think the council has to start looking at this stuff one-on-one as to how much we're being expected to pay, because, I mean, it's unbelievable the number of things that show up that they're looking for the government to pay the bill.
Yeah, I don't think there would be any expectation that the city would supplement the cost of a total program. That would be the individual residents. Again, today, the residents are paying more than they would have paid had we gone with the lowest bidder back then. So the residents are already paying more today if they're using an average number of stickers. Some residents will use less, some residents will use more. And the BEC's idea and this paper tip technology is the best. I mean, that would be great. I don't know how many vendors are using it. I don't know how many vendors want to bid on that. That's something we would have to find out, but I mean, that certainly is the most equitable, but I'm not sure if the marketplace is such that it supports paper.
Abby?
Yeah, the paper tip is the most interesting component to me, and I know it came up, or I heard it came up in 2018, the last one too, so I'm super curious on people's idea of that program.
Tony?
Yeah, I supported the sticker just because it was a way to reduce, it was an incentive to do that. I think the paper, if we can get the paper tip, that'd be the next best thing in my eyes, or actually a better thing.
And that's something that I remember from the discussion that we had, that I was pretty sure that most of the waste haulers that were here were talking about, that's how the containers were going to be built. Whether they used it or not, they were going to have the RFID chips in them. And it was just a matter of registering them and then having a receiver in the truck to be able to.
I think there was
to
a big
pick those
push
up.
for it, but I'm not sure if it caught on.
Okay.
Or I'm not sure that it was done and then found to have multiple problems, and therefore the haulers are kind of going away from it.
Okay.
That's kind of what my understanding.
Mark?
Yeah, going back 5 years, I wanted the paper tip or the stickers because I have one garbage can a week, and the 95-gallon or even the 65-gallon tote is significantly more expensive than one sticker a week. So the paper tip I wouldn't even call it a compromise. It makes sense. And the other thing it does for the waste haulers is I'm sure it cuts down on their insurance and their workman's comp, because every time they're coming out and throwing out my heavy garbage can that I managed to get a bunch of stuff in, that's not a pleasant job. But having it, tipped automatically by the truck is what saves them money, and that's my assumption is why it was a cheaper way to go, and it just makes sense for the residents. And we talked about, I do remember, like half price for seniors or whatever it happened to be if you met a qualifying thing in there. So that's what I would prefer. And we had talked about maybe charging for recycling. And if you just said, hey, it costs the same amount to recycle or throw out garbage, I don't know. I don't know if there's somebody out there that has any evidence that, oh yeah, then that people tend to pay more attention to what they put in what bin, or to the point that it's like, oh, whatever, I guess it doesn't matter, and nobody does anything. They just throw it in one bin or the other. I don't know if it'll make a difference or not, but that might be a way to get people to really pay attention to what they're putting in what bin, because maybe then I don't put my recycle bin out every week because I didn't fill it up. So now I'm saving money in that essence, but my recycle bin is usually pretty full. That's the thing that I can fill. I can't fill my garbage.
Leah?
From an environmental perspective, which is the better case scenario, that our recycling ends up in garbage or that our garbage ends up in the recycling?
Neither one are good.
I mean, as someone who's pretty conscientious about what I recycle, I would rather pay a little bit and know that people that don't care, like if the payment would incentivize people to not recycle and put everything in their garbage, might also be the people that are not paying enough attention to put the right things in the recycling bin, and so they're contaminating my recycling, and then my recycling doesn't matter anymore anyway. So I would be in support of, anyway.
Paying a little?
Yeah, paying a little bit for recycling to incentivize like doing it right.
And that's what I'm at, like, which one do we really want to incentivize our residents to do correctly? And then I'm also, Gary, can you help me understand? So right now, the city is paying for residents' recycling. Or it's included in our city bill.
Through the cost of the program. Certainly, there is a cost to recycling. The hauler does not run trucks around our town every week for free.
But the resident is paying for it through our,
Cost of their stickers, essentially.
for recycling.
Essentially, because the recycling's free. I mean, but again, it's all built into the program.
Yeah, the total cost is what pays for it.
Yeah.
Because I think I agree with what Mark was saying, like, in our household, we try to reduce how many stickers we purchase, but because we can put recycling out at the curb, free, or what feels like free, we try to do as much of that as possible, and we're very like, okay, let's see how much can we recycle. So
Problem comes in that a lot of people feel the same way. Let's minimize the number of stickers, and this pizza box, which is all
Right.
greasy, that's recyclable.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
that, because they can fill their recycler for free.
exactly.
So they shove that recycler full of stuff that's not supposed to be in there so they can have one less garbage sticker.
Yes, and that's what I'm kind of working my way around to as my point is, so how can we, this is the whole conversation tonight, encourage people to put their garbage correctly where it needs to go?
Yeah, I think Alderman Beck makes a good point. Somebody doesn't care enough to properly recycle, they're ruining it for everyone else. And maybe if they care enough to properly recycle, maybe those are the same people that would be willing to spend, a quarter of the cost of what it is to do refuse, because that way they know that they're going to have higher quality recycling. I don't know, but I don't know the answer, and I can't say Carolyn says she doesn't know the answer, but it is an interesting thought.
I wonder if the waste hauler can measure that for us and let us know, that 50% of what goes in doesn't get recycled in the recycling bins. And hey, we had an information campaign, we went out to the public with it, and now we're doing it at 70%. Just a way to try to figure out how we get people involved to do that and do it correctly. Chris?
Yeah, so here's my question. I'm not sure where everybody doesn't have any garbage. We have a lot of garbage in my house, okay? And we rent the big giant tote monthly.
Yeah,
That's
so-
still, I haven't bought a sticker other than for like big items in years.
Yeah, like I know, again, I'll go back to my example where I live. We have three options. We have a 35, a 65, and a 95. And so we would rates. You only need a 35, presumably you're going to pay a little bit less than the 65 and less than 90, because you don't need that much. So, yeah.
I'm just saying the rental rates, I think, still need to be incorporated in because of all this tipped, mine's getting tipped every week. I don't know what's going on with all you people who don't have any.
So let's say it's a paper tip program. Hopefully, if we could get that, then presumably, again, if I have a 35 gallon, I'm going to pay less per tip than you would pay for your 95 gallon.
But it still sounds like, I feel like I'm getting a better deal, at least when I've calculated out in terms of my big giant container that I pay a monthly fee for. If I'd buy stickers separately for that same amount of garbage, it would cost me way more. So
different for every
I'm
household.
saying that
Yeah.
the whole tip thing, if it's everybody's mandated to do the tip, pay to tip or whatever you want to call it, I think that's going to be a downer for people who actually generate garbage who rent these big totes.
So you demonstrate there's two ends of the extreme here.
Yeah.
And I think for the people who generate lots of garbage, you may want just a big tote and a flat fee, and that way all
That's
you
it. That's what I'm saying. Flat fees need to be available.
And for the
right?
people who don't generate a lot of garbage, they don't want a flat fee. The people who don't generate a lot of garbage, there also needs to be a recognition that going to Ace Hardware at 8 o'clock on Sunday evening to try and get garbage stickers is inconvenient. So if you have a toter, you don't have to worry about garbage stickers. You have a toter, you can keep the lid closed, you can roll it right out to the curb. There are convenience aspects to having a toter program.
Especially for the east side residents.
that can't get stickers on the east side.
Or the west side that have to deal with
Shell cells.
coyotes and raccoons.
We have those in our neighborhood.
So if we put in a fee for recycling, the residents would then just pay like a monthly fee for both their garbage toter and then the recycling toter?
I would presume that they would have a monthly rental fee for a garbage toter and a monthly rental fee
And,
for recycling.
Under a program like that, would residents have an option to not have a recycling toter?
That'd be a good question, but yeah, my first gut would be, yes, you could not rent that toter.
Just throw away everything.
Don't want to rent it. But that may go to Alderman Beck's point. If you're not care enough about recycling to rent a toter, that means you probably weren't caring enough to put in the greasy pizza box, so it's probably better to do it that way.
Sarah?
I'm assuming if we were to go to that model, it certainly wouldn't double the cost of residents, though, if we were to actually split it, because we are paying for recycling now. It's just not, like, stated explicitly.
Oh, I think
Right?
it'll go up.
Hmm?
I think it'll go up.
I think so too.
Yeah, I don't think it would be, I don't think it'll be a wash on it. I think
Right.
you'll end up, they're gonna make something on it.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing is if we look at especially if there's multiple sizes of toters available, you do get to handle both extremes. You get the giant one for somebody that creates a lot, and you get the smaller one for somebody that doesn't.
Right.
You know, if it's somebody that's single, they might just want the smallest container they can get. You know, whether it gets picked up every week or every third week, you know.
Yeah, my household is a 35-gallon garbage and a 35-gallon recycler every week. It's magic for my house. It just works out perfectly. But I've got neighbors down the block where I don't know what the heck they do. They've got 2 95-gallons out there every single week. I have no idea how they're generating it.
And the lid's open and the cardboard's sticking out of the top of one.
But they do it every week.
Abby?
Tony was first.
Yeah,
Tony, go ahead.
so along with your point there, let's say that it was, a sticker was $4, say, but that $4 is covering part of the recycling. So what if it were a per tip for both recycling and garbage and both the same rate?
Well, we're not going
So-
to control rates because that's vendors bidding process. We can control the process, not the rates.
Okay. But I would think they would share that interest that to make the cost. If the cost is equal, then there's not a reason to pile it all into one. And so those that are conscious about it, and then you're going to have people that are, they just aren't going to want to matter, and they can decide we're just going to do all garbage, and they're going to pay the same rate as whether they threw the recycling away. Everything that leaves the house is going out at the same rate.
Again, I think vendors will send cost signals. So vendors are going to look at the structure of the program, and they're going to send cost signals. They're going to say, this is the aspects of the program that will allow us to be most profitable, so we'll competitively price those aspects. These aspects over here, we're not going to be as profitable, so we're going to charge more for those because they're not as attractive to us. That's how vendors are going to do it. They're for-profit companies. So.
And realize too that the toter also makes it, I think, much safer in the community if they're out and that's all they have to do all day long is pick those up, rather than every second or third stop they're getting out and picking up a garbage can with stickers on it or a bag with stickers on it.
So I don't mean to keep going back to my example, but it's applicable. Again, my 35-gallon toter. But during the holidays, I have more garbage than that. We have host a party or something. So in Oswego, we can put on an extra bag for free. But I would envision Batavia, we'd still have a sticker program, quote unquote, so that if you can't fit garbage into your toter and you've filled your toter, you have extra garbage, you would just place a garbage sticker on that. Or if you have a coffee maker that you got to get rid of, bad example. You know what I mean? Something else that you got to get rid of, you put a garbage sticker on it. So you still have this have this option to use stickers for those things that can't fit in your toter.
Well, and that would also be part of the contract, I would imagine,
It's all
too.
part of the contract.
Whether or not they will pick up an extra bag or whether or not they would have to have a sticker on it,
Right.
an extra bag. Abby?
In my ideal scenario here, we would have the toter program on a pay per tip for both recycling, garbage, and compost, but we can come back to that in a minute. That's another discussion. Because to Mark's point, to Sofa's point, there are these two extremes. I think every household should have to just pay for what they want to put out. I don't want to pay a monthly fee. I've priced those out. That is exorbitant for the amount of trash we put out. I would not want to pay a monthly even for the smallest thing. And we want to incentivize people to not accumulate enough to have to put a lot of waste out. It is kind of a whole feedback loop and a whole like feedback process of getting people to pay attention to what's going in their house and then leaving their house. And then when we get back, when we're done with that, so anyway, paper tip is my vote. And then when we're done with that, I want to talk about food waste.
And I think,
Not to
again,
forget that.
staff is not that we're not supportive of paper tip. I just, based on what we've been told, I'm not sure how the marketplace is.
But it can certainly go in our RFP, right? We can
Oh,
find
yeah.
out what
There's no
comes
reason why
back.
we can't solicit bids for it. The question is, will we get bids or will we get more than one bid for it? Yeah,
I'm
no, I agree.
I'm not against the pay for tip. I'm just saying I think there needs to still be the option where you can just rent a big boat and that's it.
Yeah, and I see I agree. I kind of agree with all of this, and Scott's over there probably pulling his hair out because this just means more and more and more in the contract. try and bid, and pretty soon your contract documents become 15 pages long. But I understand where council wants to go and have all the different options.
There's lots of options, I guess.
I guess I'd just like to see it simplified, so that way, we make it as easy as possible, 3 different sizes, your recycling can, if you want to use a yard waste, food scrap can, you get that, whether you get it year-round or you get it just during yard waste season during the summer, whatever those options are, but just have that and have it all be, if there's 3 different size cans, let's have 3 different size cans, and that's it.
If you want to simplify, you need to go to the retailers and have them produce everything that's recyclable. Because that's part of my issue with paying for recycles is there's so much that we get from these stores that is not recyclable. And a lot of people don't know those things aren't recyclable.
Mark?
Kind of steering the conversation a little bit, just one point, and we have something in there that talks about, that ask for similar services that we get for events like Batavia Main Street events, because I don't think that they really paid for garbage. I thought that was something
Yeah,
that was.
special events are a whole separate topic.
So as long as that's something that we
we
note in
we
there.
realize we have to include special events in there.
Right, and make sure that we list that out, so that way we get that, as part of the contract that we set up, because I think that is really important, especially with as many things that we have happen downtown that require stuff like that.
And that's in our existing contract today, and
Plus, it's all free advertising for the vendor, so that they get their.
Gary, do you
It
feel
is.
like you have direction on the paper
well,
tip?
I think I've tried to make it clear to council about paper tip. I think we're all on the same page in desiring paper tip. Don't know if we can actually execute paper tip. I am generally hearing consensus, though, to look towards toter-based programs, not as strictly sticker-based.
Yes.
And I think I've got consensus that we're all open to options related to food scraps year-round, however we can make that work. Potentially even a charge for recycling, depending again how that might work with the vendors. The last thing is this household item pickup day, or maybe I'm not the last thing, but next topic, household item pickup. When I lived in Woodridge back in another life, we had an amnesty day. I took full advantage of it, but it was a zoo that day because everybody put everything out. Again, Oswego, we're unlimited. I could put anything out every single week I want to, so we don't have an amnesty day. We've got an amnesty 452 weeks. But it's just a matter of the cost. And as I said in my memo, I just see it as yet another service that the city would be providing that costs something without a corresponding revenue. So I would leave it up to you whether you want to have an amnesty day, or if somebody has that extra thing they want to put out, make them put a sticker on it. Them pay for it.
Isn't that the way we do it now? You just put it, like if you have a couch.
That's the way you do it now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there's no free day today,
Right.
right now. Amnesty days are popular. I mean, they are a thing. They are a thing in the industry.
And I think part of the conversation around this is that it would be put out a couple days beforehand, and then people in the community would know, hey, let's go out garbage shopping for the weekend, and then whatever is left is picked up
Reuse,
for that
recycle.
amnesty day. I know up in St. Charles, many, many moons ago, they did that. Everybody looked forward to it.
I'll tell you, in Woodridge, when that day would come around, it almost looked as if you're after a post-disaster. I mean, it was just, parkways were
Right.
just filled with stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I know that it helps that there's all these pages where they can give out free stuff and everything, but some of the bigger things that you can just put out and,
So staff generally is not in agreement or not recommending the pickup day just because it's a service without a revenue.
It's $70,000. Said that St. Charles was.
Scott just corrected me that they're actually, this is the first year that they did it. And it was not 70,000, it was considerably less than that. But you also said that you did talk with vendors and wouldn't be surprised if in the future, again, expect our cost to be closer to six figure. I mean, that kind of is consistent with what we pay for special pickups after disaster events.
Yeah. Yeah, I
You
know,
gotta figure,
the times we've
they're
had
spending,
after
yeah, they're
floods.
spending several days going through town with their crews.
I'd be interested in having that part of the RFP as a separate thing, just to see what
It would
people,
be. It would definitely be a
would-
separate item.
what they would be bidding us out there.
Agreed.
Because clearly we know where they're at in other communities, and we could always check to make sure it's competitive to what they're charging other communities. And then-
My only pushback again is, okay, let's say 50,000 or 35,000. Where does that revenue come from? And that's a cost paid by the city. That's not a cost paid by residents.
Yeah, just add an extra dollar to pick up.
But currently, we have the stickers that
Currently, you have stickers. The residents pay for
people
those.
who fill their parkway right now and put stickers on it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you would pay for it though.
For that.
Yeah,
But I always put it out there
You
before.
can make it,
Right.
you can put as big a thing as you want out there, one sticker and take it,
Mhm.
you know?
Go ahead, Scott.
There's really two ways to fund an amnesty day. You embed it into the contract, and it's socialized, the price is socialized through all the rates of the voters, the stickers and everything, or you pay for it per ton and per truck hour. And that's the pricing that we got 4 years ago or 4.5 years ago. It's in our contract. We could have elected to do that, but it's just it's something we got away from about 15 years ago. And St. Charles really was the driving force behind wanting those numbers in our contract or in our bid, in 2018. So we do have those numbers in there. It's just, how do we want to fund it if we do it that way? But again, we can embed that cost into and make it a requirement as part of the package. But again, it all starts to bring up the cost of the stickers and toters. Our hope is try to keep those down as much as possible and let the user pay for what they put out.
But I think kind of going to Alderman Beck's thing, if we start making the number come up, people are going to become conscious of what they're throwing out and what they're bringing into their homes. They're going to really consider, do I need to, overstack and grab like all these boxes when buying something, or do I look for something that has less packaging, or, utilize so many other things? I mean, it becomes a habit. So
I think it was 20 plus years ago when the city decided to go with the sticker program. As antiquated as it is and as it is still today, it still facilitates that amnesty day kind of feel. You can throw out as much garbage as you want within the confines, and you just put stickers on it, and it's gone. But I would really to just really think about trying to embed a Amnesty Day kind of cost into the contract and to the, I think the fear of a vendor is gonna say, you've got this big number we're looking at, and I'm gonna throw these numbers in kind of out of whack that we wanna see every day, in the fear that we're gonna have this unknown. I like to see actual numbers associated to that Amnesty Day, that tonnage and the truck hours. I'd like to see that more than I would like to see an actual, just a fictitious amount being thrown at it, and that we got tangible something.
And I will say too, from an environmental standpoint, like the goal of an amnesty type day is not to create a convenient way to throw away your stuff. It's a way to reuse things. It's a way to keep things out of the waste stream, because it's ideally all going to get picked up, and the stuff that has a lot of usable life left, which most of stuff that goes into our landfill still has usable life, give it more life so that it stays out of the waste stream, and it puts something into use that then isn't being purchased brand new, and all the energy and materials that goes into putting something brand new out on a shelf, it's replacing that. So if there's a way to accomplish that goal in my head, and when I'm hearing the numbers and I'm kind of hearing the way it's being talked about, if there's a way to accomplish that goal in a different method other than this kind of amnesty day, then I'd be fine with pursuing other options, because the goal is not to just be easy. The goal is to be educational and to have an environmental.
I agree, but I've lived in Batavia my whole life, and Amnesty Day back when I was a kid was 75 trucks driving around, picking up garbage and going through people's stuff, and I'm completely fine with that, and that's kind of the recycle mode, but that's kind of the thing you get when you throw we'll call it junk pickup back into the equation. I think today there's a pretty good recycling effort by a lot of the pickers that go through. If you put a appliance out the night before without a sticker, it's generally gone before you put a sticker on in the morning. Bed frames and other recyclables, those things are just taken over the night or early morning, and they get taken care of that way. It's how we want to word it and how we want to put it into the scheme of the bid.
I would agree, just to support that. I think we already do that. The goal you want already occurs. I mean, I know we have trucks on Tuesdays driving around looking for anything that they can scrounge up and pick, and I just heard Tony say it, I put stuff out the day before that I think has any value at all to anybody, in the hopes that somebody will drive by and grab it for that exact reason. I think that process is already built into the system.
And it goes on, and I think, Chris, you probably remember me having a conversation with them 5-6 years ago. Are you okay with this occurring? Because it occurs, and my guys don't have to touch it, it's okay. That was the feel, I believe, back then, and I think it's still, again, today. They have sorters and stuff, try to get the metals out of a lot of the garbage and things, so they're trying their best to do some of that with their own process, but we just have to figure out what we want to try to put in our RFP, just so whether it's a tonnage, truckage, or embedded into the cost of it.
I think that'd be our recommendation. If you want to see it cost, we do it on a tonnage and a time basis, as opposed to just a generic cost. If you throw a generic cost in there, vendors don't know how much they have to pick up, so they're going to throw a big number.
I wonder if that's something that could be maybe a little bit negotiated, gain some of that data with the TMN for a couple of years, and then can we come back and have a discussion of this, of what it would look like? on that. But, you know, I kind of go, and I know that a lot of people do take advantage of putting it out the night before, kind of similar to a garage sale, when we have our garage sale. People plan for that. So kind of like up in St. Charles, when they have the Amnesty Day, people plan for that. And they get excited about it, and they spend their day going around, going through garbage, picking up the things. And that's kind of something that maybe we could incorporate here, of that same thing, like people know that this day is coming, there's going to be a bunch of stuff out, and they're going to spend their day out looking for garbage or recyclables, reusable.
That's the Saturday of the garage sale.
One of the big fundraisers for the fireworks program is this garage sale that they put on. It's like the first or second weekend in June or May.
Yep, beginning of May.
I mean, they make a lot of money on that. I'd hate to shoot that one in the foot, because that really does help us keep, you know, we don't pay anything for that fireworks program. It's all donated money, and that garage sale really helps us do that. So whatever we do, I hope we can keep that garage sale in the forefront here.
I would see it as this happening after the garage sale, because a lot of people have items
Stuff left over.
and
good
that they
idea.
would put out.
Yeah. Does anybody online have any questions? Just make sure we don't ignore them.
The other item was the yard cleanup.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for reminding. Yes. And again, that's really more of a council decision. The Environmental Commission is recommending a shift. We start the third week in March, so we do the third and fourth week of March right now. The Environmental Commission is recommending the third and fourth week of April, so basically 1 month shift at the start of the season. That's a council, staff doesn't have opinion.
Can you remind me on that? Is that the brush?
No, start a
yard waste pickup.
Because I know the brush we pushed earlier, because that's one of the things that people are picking up branches and stuff in their yards after the winter. And I got a lot of complaints about, yeah. So.
It's really I think it's the second week in April is the east side, and week in April will be the west side. Just on the landscaping or yard waste note, I can't remember when it's not started in that third week of March. That was something 5 years ago we discussed on trying to help residents with that cost of yard waste and stuff, to clean out the leaves, whatever leaves might have occurred at the end of the leaf season that they didn't get cleaned up or blown into their bushes and that kind of stuff. It really wasn't meant to facilitate a lot of yard work and things of that nature. It was just more or less just clean up around the house. I don't know that it really matters if it's the first couple weeks of April or the last couple weeks of March. I think once we start to get in my opinion, and I probably would, the hauler's opinion too, if we're starting to push free leaf or yard waste collection the latter part of April, I think we're starting to get into mowing season. 'Cause I know I start all my mowing processes on all my properties in mid-April, and so I'm into that mode come that time. And there's years at the second week in April, I'm really on my contractors to get out there and start mowing. And there's some years where you're kind of crickets in the middle of April as far as mowing. So it's a hard one to put a for sure date because of one particular environmental reason, in my opinion. But if you were to bump it back, I would only lean towards bumping it back a couple weeks. Maybe there's the first couple weeks of April versus the second couple weeks, because that would mean the start of the season. That would mean we start getting yard bags and everything out, putting out the curb. And it takes a long time to educate people on when to put stuff out. We all see brush piles that start to materialize, and when the limbs fall, they don't put them on the side of the garage. They put them right to the curb. So I just want to make sure we don't clutter up things too by trying to delay things even further, so.
Anybody got any thoughts on that? Abby?
I support pushing it back for the reasons Carolyn stated. And I think there is some education that goes along with it, and same with the yard, the people putting sticks and stuff out on the curb. And stuff like
We
that,
average, in March and April, we're averaging about 70 tons. And once we get into May, we're averaging double that, as far as what the reporting we get from Waste Management. So, it's clear it's not a huge amount, but, it does add up.
Alan?
Yeah.
I think that we know more about the environmental effects than we did many, many years ago. So I'm in support of pushing this into April just because of a lot more of the information that's come out. And honestly, I never know when it is. I always refer to the books or to the emails of, oh gosh, when does this need to come out? And I think that that's where the educational part is I can't even tell you what I did last week or what day the garbage was picked up. So I think that if we published at this time, residents would know that.
Yeah, and if that puts it at a closer time to start at the same period that the brush pickup, you said brush pickup starts in April?
Brush pickup starts the first week or two of April.
And that may be also a good time to have those together or closer together in starting times, push the yard waste one back. And that way it gives people more time, one, let the stuff decompose that's already there, let it mulch itself in, and then you get to that point, and then both programs would start at similar times, I think might be better than, like you say, leaving bags and stuff sitting on the curb and or brush sitting on the curb.
Delaying it to the end of April in the busier time, do you envision that being a price increase because of that, or would that not affect the time?
They still pick it up, they pick it up obviously, times.
But is the contract price going to be different if they're anticipating that they're going to have to pick up more?
So whatever week it is, it's going to affect, the overall pricing to some degree, and they're going to factor in. So a disposal sticker for yard waste is going to be, so these they know what, 70 tons that would weigh. So it just may be, so the cost of that disposal sticker is going to be relative to what.
Abby?
I have a logistics question. If we go with year-round compost food waste, then would there still be a cutoff of but now I can also put my yard waste in it? I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, I would presume that we'll have specific dates for, you can start putting your yard waste.
Well, with yard waste being, we're able to go April through November with yard waste, that's basically all but, 4 months that we wouldn't have food compost. So I would write it in a way that we would be able to put food scraps in our yard waste, for the entire, period of April.
But if we went year-round with...
If we year-round, we'll have to do the wording of how that is in container and what kind of device that'll be.
Back to my example, if it's the green lid, they won't start picking up the green lids until April. The brown lid, they was.
Again, all those kind of costs are socialized within all the different avenues, streams that they have. So between the each size toter will be cost affected by whatever we add on.
Alan, I think
Leah?
Susan, right, wants to speak.
Yep. If you want to come up and use the mic.
Thank
Thank you. I've been listening and I've been working on this a little bit with the BEC and Climate Action Team. I'd encourage you to look at how Deerfield does it. They issue every resident 3 toters. One is a yard waste composting toter, 35 gallons. They get a choice of 35, 65, or 95 for garbage, and then 1 toter for recycling. Now, I think they're paying on a monthly basis, rather than a per tip fee. But that would then, I think, solve this issue about yard waste April to November versus composting. It would be all the same thing year-round with yard waste compost items, in that one composting bin or toter. So I think that's something to look at. I'd like to remind you that with the composting, you can also put in that greasy pizza box and, like paper napkins from dinner into that composting bin too. So it can receive some of those food contaminated paper products as well. And I personally would love to see it go year round, because I think, as Gary said, he has more waste. At Christmas time, I have a lot more composting type stuff at, the holiday period. And then my only final comment was, I do think that this does require some degree of educating people and doing much more than we've done in the past. Because I think if everybody is issued the composting bin, the waste bin, and the recycling bin, and especially if you can get a bidder to give you one price per tip for the waste and the recycling, they can average it out and divide it by 2, that might be a way to get everybody to do those 3 things and educate people. And I just wanted to mention that if you've not already seen it, there was an excellent article in the New York Times about how Central Ohio and the city of Columbus in particular has made a concerted effort to divert compost and food waste and recycling from their landfill. And their initial reporting for 2021 says that they've been successful in doing it by 51%. But they have a marvelous website, and I encourage you to go to look at it. It's Solid Waste for Central Ohio, but it's an educational tool, and it's crystal clear what people should be doing and how to do it with each one of these 3 streams of waste. So that's my comments for you.
And I think that's something that's important. I mean, we talk about everything else we've done over the past 5 years and things we're going to do now with the bag program and having education and having something go out there. I think this is another thing that has to happen with this, is education has to be there. And if that means, we partner up with BATV and, our team and somebody from the Environmental Commission, we need to do that, and we need to get that out in front of people so that they understand that we need to do this and do it correctly. It's not just, hey, you got 3 cans, so fill 3 cans up. It's, get the right things in the right can so that this works.
Again, back to Scott pulling his hair out, I think we're going to want to present different options in the contract, which will make it more complicated on our end, but it'll be more useful, friendly to the residents. I've lived in my house since 2004. I probably can count on one hand the number of yard waste bags I've put out because I mulch my lawn, I mulch my leaves. I've got actually an area on my property where I could put, small branches and so I never put out yard waste. I don't need a yard waste toter. I wouldn't want to pay for a yard waste toter because it would sit empty in my garage.
Yep.
I may be the exception, but there will be people out in the community like that don't want 3 beds.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't.
Got neighbors that have chickens, so any food scraps go out there, so.
There's also people out there who do want 3 beds, so I think we need to give them an option.
Right.
But I think that's why the paper tip, like, then you
Yeah,
don't have to
exactly.
have it. You
Right.
don't have to tip it. Or you can have it and
Yeah.
tip it like once a year, and it's all you have to pay for. I also don't have a lot, but I have a really ugly back corner of my yard. Sorry to my back corner yard neighbor that might see it.
We have a compost bin with red wigglers in it for about 15 years now.
Yeah,
And it
yeah.
works very well. Whenever we throw, all the food scraps we throw in there is great for the garden.
Too much
If anyone
information.
else has any questions, if not, I think we've got
Okay.
our direction, so.
So if there are no other questions, then we'll let you guys put together that and wait to see some numbers. I know.
And I just wanted to thank the Batavia Environmental Commission because they are a big group of volunteers that spend a lot of time researching and coming up with presentations and in meetings and meetings with staff, meetings with us, and so we're really, really, really grateful for the impact that you're having. So thank you so much.
Yep.
And thanks for staff for involving them in the RFP process.
Thank you. Okay, then on to item 8, which is Resolution 23004, renewing a contract for Association for Individual Development, AID, Victim Services for full-time in-house social worker. Alderman Chanzit, you want to start that?
Indeed. So we have had contracted services with AID going back to 2007. This is a great opportunity for us, though, to have additional service provided, or at least a dedicated service provided. 23-04-R is a 1-year renewable contract for a dedicated full-time in-house social worker for us. So I would turn that over to staff for anything that they want to include.
Okay.
Just like to introduce the two that would be our full-time social workers. You let me. This is Brittany Schaefer. She would be with us Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And it's Alan Diaz. He would be with us on Mondays and Tuesdays. They would be working 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. So we're excited to have them on board, and we look forward. It's a service that I think Chief Hansen will agree with me that the police and fire will benefit not only us, but the community as a whole. So.
Yeah, I've had contact with some people that have had services from them and through that, and I think it's something that it's an evolution of the services that both of those departments, both fire and police, provide that unfortunately is necessary every day.
Yes.
You know, and we see it when we see our police reports and, you know, of everything that happens. And I think it's something that we made the decision several years ago to support this just as, you know, an outside thing, but to bring somebody in, I think is even more so important today than it ever was before. So I'm really glad to see that we're getting this done. Abby?
I've heard it said during our discussions before that you can really tell what the community cares about, how it spends its money, and what we put in our budget. We're putting dollars towards this type of service, compassionate services, and actually treating problems at the root cause and sending the right person to the door to deal with them. That makes a ton more sense than spinning our wheels.
Yes, exactly. Abby?
I was just going to comment and kind of question too that the a full-time social worker, which is worth its weight in gold, and then a 24-hour hotline, all for $70,000 sounds like quite a steal. Yeah. Like, how is it that AID can provide this for such a low cost?
You have to use the mic. You got to come up and use the mic so we can get this broadcast.
I don't know quite about the financial side of it, but we're in-house and we're kind of like temporary case managers, so we try to do as best we can to connect people with whatever resources are in the community, whether or not it's counseling, whether or not if it's, you know, trying to help them find a lawyer, whether or not if it's trying to find anything, even trying to find, you know, if there's a fire and, you know, we're trying to get them help, trying to find them a hotel or something. So we try to find whatever we can. We have a 24-hour program where each of us case managers are on call for a 24-hour period. Most of the time we get called out on death call, so we try to help the families, you know, if they need help with filling out a small stay affidavit, or if they need help finding grief counseling, or trying to help them find whatever funeral homes are in that area and try to help them as best as we can to help they need. So do what we can.
Anybody else?
I would just want to just thank you for everything you do. It is so important these days, and it's been important for a long time. It's like Dan said, we're putting our money where it needs to be. So thank you very much.
If there's no additional, I would move approval then for resolution 23-04-R, authorizing execution of a 1-year renewable contract for victim and crisis intervention services with AID for a full-time in-house social worker.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Jansen?
Aye.
Silva?
Aye.
Wolf?
Aye.
Barron?
Aye.
Lehman?
Aye.
Agassi absent. Malay?
Aye.
Ewer?
Aye.
Saron?
Aye.
Vogelsinger?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Rosado?
Aye.
Beck?
Aye.
And Connolly?
Aye.
Motion carried 13-0.
All right. Thanks for sticking around and listening to everything else tonight so we could meet you. Thank you. Okay, up next then is item 9, which is resolution 23-011R, authorizing purchase of 2 fire department administration vehicles. Alderman Jansen.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have that one. That's the city services issue, then.
It's listed as government services here, but that's fine.
I'm sorry.
We'll take care of it. And we have Chief here to describe our 2 new administration vehicles.
Yes, thank you. This is similar to what the police department brought to you last month. We're looking also to purchase 2 2023 Ford Hybrid Explorer vehicles for our administrative staff. These are also being requested to be purchased through Morrow Brothers Ford, which is down in Greenfield, Illinois. We weren't able to get them through our local supplier, and apparently the PD has had some success with the Public Works in switching to Morrow Brothers Ford down in southern Illinois, just outside St. Louis. So they're very similar, as we stated, to the 2 that were purchased for the police department administration, with some minor changes just to reflect basically our utilization over the police.
Does anybody have any questions on these?
Yeah, just a couple. I'm assuming, like the police department, that these are under what was budgeted.
Yes.
And there is one typo I did see there. It's in the end it says 87,230, whereas before it was 87,630.
Oh yeah, it would be 87,630.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
No, that's all right. That's corrected.
Yeah, honestly, that happens to be what the PD.
Yeah, exactly. I figured.
So it's listed in here that it does not include the upfit charge. So are we moving over our own communication and emergency lighting from our current vehicles to this one?
We are moving over some of that. One would be an additional to the fleet for the additional deputy chief that we added this year. And the other one is to replace what was our Battalion 1. We had to change our replacement order. Our existing frontline Battalion 1 car has an engine problem. It cannot be repaired in the motor, basically, and it was advised to have a new motor. So we basically swapped that with another, our reserve command battalion car that had less mileage. So, yeah, so one's a replacement, one's not, but some of that equipment will move because the other vehicle has overhead lights and all that, and this being an administrative vehicle doesn't require the light package that you would have on a frontline response.
I'll just say again, I'm very happy that we're buying hybrids for these. And it'll be real interesting because I'm going to hit both chiefs up after about 6 months and find out, just to compare it to the other vehicles that they have that are similar, and find out what the, the fuel usage is and see if it really does make a difference, because I think it will. I think, for the intended uses for those, I think is a really good thing for us to switch to the hybrids on them.
Yeah, so what we did do, we took former chief's vehicle, which was a full-size Suburban. We moved that up into our battalion fleet so that we could utilize the hybrids in our administrative area. That's what we hope to do also with our support fire marshal vehicle and other, non-emergency or frontline response vehicles.
Okay. And I guess I will make the motion that we recommend to council Resolution 2311R, authorizing the purchase of 2 fire department administration vehicles.
Second.
Motion by Wolf, second by Malay. Roll call, please.
Wolf,
Aye.
Barron,
Aye.
Lehman,
Aye.
Ayasi, Malay,
Aye.
Ewert,
Aye.
Saron,
Aye.
Vogelsinger,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Rosado,
Aye.
Beck,
Aye.
Connolly,
Aye.
Chanzit,
Aye.
and Solfa.
Aye.
Motion carried 13-0.
All right, thank you. And then item number 10 will be Resolution 23009R, authorizing referendum question to have the city clerk position changed to from an elected position to an appointed position on the April 2023 ballot. Alderman Chanzit?
Indeed, we can certainly take the two of these together. This is necessitated basically by the elections here, is that we have not had candidates for these positions, and in order to make any change to our form of government, we do need to put these as binding referendum questions placed upon the ballot for the voters to consider. So staff is recommending that these positions be put to appointment by the city because they are ultimately handled by city employees in a case where an elected person is not available. Laura, does that basically sum it up?
It sums it up well, but I'd say that the recommendation is to make these appointed positions for kind of opposite reasons, because of how small the treasurer position is and how large the clerk position is. The position for which we haven't had candidates has been the treasurer position. We are fortunate to have had 2 excellent candidates for the clerk position these past 2 times, but despite that, what both of them found was that the role was overwhelming. And I've asked Kate Garrett to join us this evening in case, you'd like to hear from her in terms of, how she feels about how much of the job she's able to accomplish with it being an elected position with a relatively very small salary associated with it. Moving these to an appointed position would also allow for people being appointed because of their qualifications and professional background, and allow for oversight and accountability, which I would also like to say is no reflection on the incumbent or the last clerk that I worked with, who are both excellent. But this is a trend that is being seen nationwide, to have these 2 positions move to appointed positions versus elected positions for the reasons I've outlined. My own profession really didn't exist much 50, 75 years ago. And due to the it being more and more complex each year to deliver municipal services, I think that this is one of those aspects that we'd like to more come in line with best practices and see these 2 positions be appointed. My recommendation is, with regard to the treasurer, that the salary for that just be, which is $600 per year, that be transferred over to the finance director, who is already performing the lion's share of that role. She does not have the signature authority for the treasurer position because she is not a resident. And so that's the only reason why we had to find a city resident to appoint, because we had no candidate for that position. With regard to the city clerk position, that would require an additional employee, whether that is a part-time employee or a full-time employee. I think we need to determine that, but we do have a 2-year period of time within which to do that, because it would be expected that the current clerk would fulfill her current term to the expiration in 2025. And so we've got time to talk about that. Kate is on the line. Let me see if she would like to add anything.
Laura,
Yes.
what's the salary for clerk?
$7,300.
Thought it was 500.
No,
It's about 500 a month, roughly.
$7,370.
Wonder how we ever came up with that number.
But again, relatively small when you look at the general duties of the city treasurer, and that it's a person who has responsibility for maintaining all of the documents and all of the city records, which is extremely complex at this point, and really needs to be a city position to oversee even just that aspect. But it would be anticipated that licensure, such as liquor licenses, would become part of this role as well.
Yeah, I don't have anything much to add beyond what Laura's already very well explained, but I'm happy to answer any questions that City Council might have.
Leah?
So then the new city clerk appointed position would be a part-time position?
Not necessarily. I think we'd have to, in the next 2 years, develop a job description and then determine whether it warrants a part-time or a full-time employee.
And then my other question, and it's just partly because I don't fully understand, the city treasurer, if the finance director took over the responsibilities of the city treasurer, that would not produce any conflict of interest between the two roles?
No.
Okay.
Because there still is oversight by you as the elected members over what the finance director is doing as well.
Mark?
Kate, how much time do you think you spend a week?
Not nearly enough. I spend about as much as I can carve out from other responsibilities. So maybe 3 or 4 hours a week as of right now. But there's a number of projects that really should fall under the clerk's parameters, and I don't have the opportunity to get to them because I do have outside work, which is important because the clerk position doesn't compensate enough to just do that full time. But moving forward with this position, if it were to be a part-time or a full-time position, that person would be able to tackle a lot of projects that are very necessary, which have not been able to be fulfilled at the moment.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Any other questions?
I would just add the model of the school district is the finance director is also the treasurer, and that's been the case for a number of years.
Okay, Dan, do you want to make a motion on Resolution 23009R?
Yes, and if there's no additional discussion, I would move that we send resolution 23 9-R authorizing a referendum for the appointment of the city clerk to council.
Second.
Motion and second. Any additional discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Chancet,
Aye.
Silva,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Barron,
Aye.
Lehman,
Aye.
Ayasi, Malay,
Aye.
Ewer,
Aye.
Saron,
Aye.
Vogelsinger,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Rosado,
Aye.
Beck,
Aye.
and Connolly.
Aye.
Motion carried 13-0.
Okay. And then next one would be item 11, which is resolution 2310R, authorizing referendum question to have the city treasurer position changed from an elected to an appointed position on the April 2023 ballot. Alderman
If
Chancellor.
there's no additional discussion, I would move that we send 23-10 or -R to council for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Chancet,
Aye.
Silva,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Barron,
Aye.
Lehman,
Aye.
Ayasi, Malay,
Aye.
Ewer,
Aye.
Saron,
Aye.
Vogelsinger,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Rosado,
Aye.
Beck,
Aye.
and Connolly.
Aye.
Motion carried 13-0.
Right, thank you. On to item number 12, which is resolution 23003R, awarding a contract to Integral Construction Incorporated for Randall Road lift station improvements for an amount not to exceed $593,200.04. Alderman Cerrone?
Yes, kind of a straightforward process that bumped into a couple variables that I'll let Gary expound upon.
I'm glad you phrased it.
Nice setup.
Well said. Yeah. Our Randall Road lift station, which sits out in front of the Target, is nearing its end of life. It's actually at its end of life. We've had a lot of maintenance issues with that. So it has been on our radar to replace. In early 2022, we had funds in the budget for engineering design, and by the end of 2022, in December, we let it for bid, and a low bidder was Integral Construction. On December 5th, the city was contacted by the Indiana, Illinois, and Iowa Foundation for Fair Contracting, IIFFC. And then 10 days later, we were also contacted by LESET, which is the Labor Employers Cooperative Education Trust. Both of those agencies raised concerns related to integral construction. And so for the past month, our consulting engineers, RJN, as well as city staff, we have gone through and tried to vet the concerns which were raised by the two agencies in order to, kind of get a feel for the validity of those concerns and the magnitude of those concerns. We have now reached a point where we are making recommendations, and RJN and city staff are both recommending that we do proceed forward with awarding of a contract to Integral Construction. I did say in my memo that this is a lift station project such that majority of the work is going to be out in the open. Certainly there will be some piping that will be buried below ground. That piping will have to be inspected before it's backfilled. But a vast majority of the work sits within the wet well. You can see it even after it's built. You can still see it. So that helps to ensure quality of construction because they can't hide anything because it's going to be in there and you can see it. There is a $70,000 cost difference between Integral's bid and the next lowest bidder. And I tried to touch on that in my memo, that if we do run into issues, we have this $70,000 delta where we can always spend more money on resident engineering services. We have a large cushion there if we need to, and we may not need to. So staff did, given the concerns and our correspondence with the two agencies, we did reach out on Friday once the council packets were made public and this was broadcast out. We invited all of them to participate tonight, to be here, so everyone had a chance to come if they wanted to voice their concerns this evening. We are recommending award to Integral Construction for an amount not to exceed that $593,200.04. And I originally made a mistake, but it's now corrected in the packet here. But we traditionally award with a contingency, but there are actually contingencies in the packet itself. So there's actually a $50,000 contingency in the contract award. So we don't need to add an extra contingency on top of that. So that's our recommendation.
Thank you. I appreciate you addressing the concerns and taking the extra vetting steps. I would agree with your assessment, but I don't know if anybody is online that did want to. You invited people, or anybody in the audience wants to address us regarding this. But
I'll make one last comment, and it's a comment that you all are well aware of, and I'll just put it on the public record. One of the concerns that was raised was regards to project timing and project completion. And I think it's longstanding practice of the city that if a contractor is in and that contractor is working every day and that contractor is actively communicating with us and then that contractor ends up going a little bit longer, the city is very flexible and we work with contractors. But if that contractor disappears and we don't see him for weeks, or that contractor has no communication with us, and we reach the end of the contract, that contractor can be sure that we're going to implement liquidated damages. So I just wanted to put that up front. And we do have liquidated damages clause in this contract. As long as the contractor is working with us and making an honest effort and we're working towards the end of the contract, I don't foresee any issue.
well, your process has worked for many years, and I trust in that. But did anybody have any questions?
I just have one comment in reading your memo, Gary. You did say that less it represents union interests. I would just like to point out that that's a joint venture between labor and contractors, and it's an equal representation on that board. So
IIFFC is the same way, yeah.
So it's not solely union interests, it's joint interests that brought these concerns forward. But I appreciate your vetting and looking into and taking the concerns seriously. So,
Mark?
I would like to make the comment, I don't have any problems with the contract, it's fine with me. The one thing, Randall Road's construction of things being built out there these days, I get more than I used to get comments from folks about, is there going to be any landscaping put around some of this stuff so it doesn't stand out or show up? Does this thing require any significant amount of landscaping?
On the surface, you're not going to see anything more than you do out there today.
Well, I guess what I'm talking about is the surface. Is there pipes or a building or anything coming out?
No, we're not going to be building a building. It's going to be, it's going to be what you see out there today. There's a transformer box out there, and there's a small cube, if you will, that's the lift station.
What's the location of the construction?
If you drive in Target's parking, if you walked out Target's front door and went all the way to the end of the parking lot towards Randall Road, it sits right out in front of Target.
Right on Randall Road, okay.
People probably have driven by it 100 times and never noticed it.
Okay.
They do have evergreens out there that were planted originally around it.
Yeah, the Pulte Homes subdivision out there behind Target is certainly gotten the interest of a lot of the people who live nearby it as to what kind of screening, and are we going to replace some of the stuff that got cut down and all that kind of good stuff, so.
Mark? No? You're good. Anybody else? Abby?
Gary, I see that Integral also worked on the Batavia Civic Center, the gymnasium across town. Did we check with the Park District? Did they enjoy working with them as a vendor?
You know, RJN tried to focus on those references that are more applicable to our project. They have a lot of school and Park District type projects, which frankly just aren't. They're a company which does a big scope of work. So no, we did not contact them because the Civic Center or school district or Park District type work isn't really applicable to what we're doing.
Anyone else? Anyone online? Well, with that, I will agree with staff recommendation and recommend resolution 23-003-R recommended to City Council for for approval, awarding contract to Integral Construction for Randall Road Lift Station improvements for an amount not to exceed $593,204.
Second.
Roll call, please. Sorry,
Saron?
Saron, yeah, aye, and the second was by Ewer.
Oh, thank you. Vogelsinger?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Rosado?
Aye.
Beck?
Aye.
Connolly?
Aye.
Transit?
Aye.
Sofa?
Aye.
Wolf?
Aye.
Barron?
Aye.
Lehman?
Aye.
Yazdi? Malay?
Aye.
And Ewer.
Aye.
Motion carried 13-0.
Okay, thank you. And then we'll go on to item 13, which is project status.
Thank you. We met with Rule 29, who is the marketing firm that was developing concepts for the educational campaign to encourage the use of reusable bags when we're shopping, and they gave us several great ideas to select from. We worked with members of the Batavia Environmental Commission and also staff members to get input on those, and we've selected a tagline for the campaign, and so now Rule 29 will utilize that tagline and create both a logo for the campaign and then a basic poster that we can use in various fashion. So that project is marching right along. We should have our campaign ready to go in February. Active Transportation and Bike Illinois are reviewing staff's comments on the bike pedestrian plan, and they said that they'll have a sort of final draft of the plan available at the end of this month that will get input from stakeholders, and then it will come back to the committee of the whole to review. Yesterday, staff met with U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to come to see our dam. I had previously mentioned that they're restarting a project to study the dams along the Fox River and determine what would be the ecological and safety impacts of removal of those dams, and we think they're doing that in anticipation of there being a federal funding program for removal of those dams. So we were very happy to make direct contact with the people who are involved in that study and find out, what the process and timeline is going to be. They expect to have their preliminary plan done this summer, and we'll have a public report then that we'll be able to provide to a link to on our website so that members of our community who are very interested in this matter can be informed of what the results of that study is. So many development projects going on right now, but here's an update on some of them. Mayor mentioned the Winding Creek development. We have completed our review of the master plan set for that subdivision, and we anticipate any time now that we're going to be receiving applications for permits for the newly purchased homes coming in very soon. Mocha Coffee is completing their project, and they're planning to be open in late January or early February. Today, there was a ribbon cutting at Chicken Salad Chick and their grand opening, and Mayor said they did a great business today.
Probably the largest ribbon cutting I've ever participated in. There was probably 125 people there. And, I went out there to get myself some supper, and I stood in line there were about 10 ahead of me at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so they've got the product, I went home and ate it. It was very good. So I think it's going to be a great curiosity for many people in Batavia to ask me about it and when it's going to be open. And so it's there now, and they opened as of 10 o'clock this morning, and so try it.
Yeah. And Casey's and Culver's are continuing with their construction. They're anticipating to be open sometime this spring as well. Bell Tire under construction over by the Starbucks and the Chipotle. Expect that it might not be until late spring or early summer that they open. Imagine Theater is continuing with their construction. They're still targeting an opening date in midsummer at this point. They ran into a couple of construction hiccups, but they're still planning to open this summer. And the downtown plan, that's the one that Housel Levine is working on. They have an advisory committee meeting scheduled this second week in January, and there will be a visioning public meeting at the Batavia Public Library in the fourth week of January that will be advertised. And that's all I have, unless anybody has any questions for me.
I'd like to add one thing.
Yes.
You brought up the movie theater. Now, Laura and I have had the opportunity to, meet with them twice?
Mm-hmm.
Very nice people. I mean, I would describe them as very honest and honorable people. And what I've gleaned from them is that, when they bought this thing, there were 16 screens out there. And I guess what he told us in the one meeting is that there's no way anymore that Hollywood's going to be producing 16 different movies at any time that they're going to be able to fill all those screens with movies. So they have to kind of rethink what they're doing. So I guess what they're doing out there is that we're going to have, I think, 4 or 5 movie theaters still available, including the one at the back, which he says is going to be, for the moment, the largest screen in the state of Illinois. And they're going to potentially have that available for unique programming, like maybe a Super Bowl game. It'll be a special thing to go able to watch something like that, or and there's some other stuff about maybe some live portrayals of plays in some of the big theaters, maybe wanting to come in there because people don't want to go to the theater anymore in the way they have to do it. So that may be one of the things that they're going to do. But I got the impression, as he described it, is he's going to have some party rooms out. And they're going to have 1 or 2 rooms that are going to be available for like a kid's birthday party. But more interestingly, they're going to try to market the thing for like if your 50th wedding anniversary or your father's going to turn 95 or whatever have you, you can rent a room out there for 3 or 4 hours. And then you bring in all the pictures of whoever this is, and they scan them all, and then when they open up the party, they have a screen that they'll show this on with some music behind it, because of course the still pictures don't have any noise with them. So they'll show that, and that'll just run for the whole 3 or 4 hours. And then he's talked to me since then about the possibility of having memorial services out, where he's not going to be a mortuary, he's not going to be dealing with bodies, that'll have to be handled by the funeral homes. But if you want to have a memorial service for a loved one, you can come out there and, again, they'll take the pictures of the person and put it on the screen. And then if they're going to have a wake for 2 or 3 hours, they'll have this thing going during the wake showing the people. And then when that's over with, they'll bring in whoever's going to run the funeral, and they'll do the funeral right there. And then when that's done, they will have the ability to have all the refreshments available for a reception. And so, and I believe he's going to be asking for a liquor license here pretty quick one of these days. And I think that maybe 1 or 2 of those theater spaces are going to be turned into a restaurant. And so you'll be able to go out there and dine and go to the movie. Then he described to me that when these 4 movie theaters open up, he's going to have maybe waitresses, male or female, standing at the door. You buy your ticket, and the ticket has a seat name or address on it. So you go into the door, and these waitresses are standing, waiters or waitresses, and they take you to your seat, and you sit down. And then the next thing that happens is they say to you, would you like something to drink or eat or whatever have you? And then you give them your order, and then they go and get it and bring it back to your seat. And supposedly when they say the movie should start at 7 o'clock, but if they don't have everybody served yet, they'll hold up the movie for a few minutes till they get everybody served. Then they'll turn the lights off, and they'll run the movie halfway through. And then at the middle of the movie, they'll shut it down, turn on the lights, and they'll have an intermission, at which time the waiters and waitresses will come in and take the whatever you've been drinking or eating away from you, and then they'll offer to bring you something more if you want. Then they'll turn the movie back on and you'll watch it, and that'll be the end of it. So it's going to be a kind of a different, but it, you know, the world's changing in a lot of respects, and this is, I guess, the new way that the movie's going to be. But Batavia is going to be one of the first, I think, that's going to have all these new dynamics in the movie theater that aren't available in other places. And I've seen a couple of his, we all have, a couple of the movie theaters around us have shut down because they just can't deal with all this subsequently changing thing, especially this thing where Hollywood now says instead of you going to the movie theater, you go online and screen it, and they send it to you, and then you pay them out of your credit card, and the movie theater is totally taken out of the showing of the movie. So they're not even in that business anymore. And I guess could be 50% of the audience right now is going to the screening idea. So just so you updated what's happening out there, I get a lot of questions about that because people see that huge addition on the back end and they wonder what is going on out there. Well, I think it's all good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This morning, when I was cutting the ribbon at Chicken Salad Chick, the owners of there were very interested in what was happening with that movie theater. They think that's going to be a nice thing to be a neighbor to.
Mm-hmm.
So, didn't mean to talk too long, but
That's fine.
Good.
let you know what's going on.
Yep. A lot.
Yeah.
Alderman Miller?
Is it next to the committee of the whole?
Mm-hmm.
Can we get an update on the Mahoney Creek residents that wanted to talk to us? And
They're coming.
yeah,
As a matter of fact, they're on the agenda,
Okay.
so they'll be able to update.
and then the other one with the pump station in Carriage Crest. I know that was something we were having some people look at, but we still wanted to move forward. So, what those options were to get that taken care of soon.
Yeah, I don't know that we'll have anything specific by next cow meeting for Carriage Crest. Our engineers are working on it, but
Okay,
that
that's all
will,
it was, no.
when they get to a point where we can provide an update, we certainly will, so.
Thank you.
Just one thing I just wanted to make sure I brought up tonight under other was, we got the info from the fire chief on the truck from St. Charles and all the associated stuff with it. I mean, the only thing I was really shocked by was $600 to insure a fire truck, which is, to me, just blows my mind. We're probably paying $600 for each one of the Explorers they just got, let alone a 50,000-pound truck. So.
Doesn't go out much.
Come in
Yeah.
next Tuesday, 10
Yeah.
o'clock.
Okay. West Side Station?
You gotta go up
West
to
Side.
St. Charles and get it, isn't that the deal? St. Charles wants to have some kind, were we taking a picture? Is that what we're doing up there with
They're
it?
giving it a send-off.
The mayor's coming over, and I don't know what we're all
You
doing.
gonna drive it back? Or?
No, I'm not doing that.
I'll drive it back. I'll find out where the horn's at, too. Okay. Anybody else with any others? If not, can I have a motion for adjournment?
I'll move.
Second. Okay, motion by Malay, second by Cerrone. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Everybody, we get to go home and it's not